Welcome, everyone, to this week's Menlo Midweek podcast. My name is Mark.
And I'm Phil.
Happy New Year, Phil.
What's
Merry
up, bro?
Christmas, all that stuff.
We did it.
Dude, it just seems like yesterday we were on the stage at Menlo Park inviting people back to our second round of services. And then we blinked.
Yep.
And then it was the start of our new series. And now we're here podcasting first one of the year.
Well, and
it's flown by, man.
And we do this thing, if you don't know this about us, we do this thing where staff members at Menlo are given the week after Christmas off. And so it's cool. Like it's a really fun, I think, like thing that, you know, we've done it. I think this is the second year that we've done it. And I think that's been like a helpful tool, but I think it's not as helpful when you have a baby at home. So like my guess is that you being back in the office on some level feels more restful.
I won't say yes to that.
Yeah, but like if you're watching the video version of this, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I have kids that are older, and it still feels to me like, hey, the office is a known thing, and I like what I do and all that stuff. So if I could work like 2 hours every day and then just be with my family the rest of the day, actually that'd be a great rhythm for me.
That'd be awesome.
So that's kind of what I did during that week off. But usually by the end of it, I'm like finding stuff to do around the house, and I've like done the dishes every day, and I've like done all the laundry and everything. And this is like, get out. Like whatever this energy is, I need this out of our house. So
I just imagine you just going like full tinker mode and like hiding cables that are already hidden, but hiding them better.
Yeah. Well, we're in a rental where our house gets worked on, so there's some of that I want to do, but I also am like trying to remind myself, like, hey, this is not a long-term situation, and you're gonna be so. But if you've noticed, I've actually kind of done that a little bit in my office here, because I know that it's like my office. And so even though our house is kind of a temporary solution, I like replaced these old tattered kind of hand-me-down chairs in my office over break. And I did actually some cable management in my office. It's funny that you say that. So, you know, everybody's got their stuff.
Everyone's got their
I got my
thing,
stuff
man.
too.
Yeah. We were trying our best to have Micah's first Christmas be awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Which he doesn't really know the difference.
He will not remember at all.
11 months.
He'll remember how he
Christmas.
felt about it. So that's good. Yeah.
And
how many gifts did you get him versus how many gifts did he get?
I think Missy and I probably got him 2 gifts that he already had that we just wrapped up.
Nice. Yes.
And then we were pretty like, because we flew down to see my parents.
Okay.
So we're like, hey, we can't bring stuff back up with us. So it's fine. Like get him something small if you want to. Otherwise, just
I'm
we're
sure that
good.
worked great.
There was a big box from Bass Pro Shops that showed up at my house, and they were like, "Don't open this until after Christmas."
Yeah.
So then we get to Christmas at my parents' house. We did it on the 27th. Micah's cousin came over, who's 3 months old as well.
Amazing.
So both babies' first Christmas. That was so fun.
That's so fun.
We open up this box, and it's this giant inflatable boat ball pit.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, that's the box that came as well?
Amazing.
It's going to take up our whole living room.
That's incredible.
It was
dude.
so fun.
But like a really fun present.
Awesome present.
And age appropriate, actually.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
So like he was crawling all around in
That's
that at my
amazing.
parents' house. And I think in summer we'll just fill it up with some water or
Dude,
something
that's
like that.
so
And it can be
fun.
his little pool.
Do you think you can really fish from it?
No.
Worth a try?
We can try though.
Yeah, dude. Worth a
We
try.
can try though. Dad got a present though that
Yeah?
I can fish from. So
What'd
that's
you
pretty
get?
sweet. It's a thing called a float tube.
Oh,
it's like those
yeah.
things
I know
where
exactly
you
what that is.
sit in.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like an inflatable U.
Dude, that's great, actually.
Yeah. So my dad upgraded his.
Yeah.
So then I asked for all the accessories to have a set up here. So
Okay.
then he's going to send up his old float tube next time they drive
That's
up and
so
visit.
fun, man. That's
Yeah,
really
it'll be fun.
really
But that
good.
just like got the itch of like, well, I mean, a boat's not much different than that. So like, why don't I just get a boat, you
just get
know?
a boat, bro.
Yeah. Add me to the list of Marks that needs a boat.
Yeah,
It's
Mark needs a
Kim
boat.
and me.
Yeah, that's our joke with Mark.
Yeah.
Although I think Mark Kim wants more like a yacht.
Yeah,
you
different
can
kind of
fish
boat.
off of it, I guess, but
Absolutely.
you know, yeah, maybe you guys can go in on it together.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. Splitting boats is the best part.
Yeah, it's good.
Being on the boat that you don't own is the
Best.
best
That's
part.
the best part.
Yeah.
Vacation houses.
Yep.
Boats. People's private planes. Man, that stuff sounds
private planes, yeah,
amazing.
dude.
That's I don't want those problems,
Yeah.
but I want those perks for sure, dude. Absolutely.
Yeah, we were We were driving by like the big lotto sign on 101 when it was at like
Oh,
$1 billion, and we were like, what would we buy with $1 billion? Like maybe a plane? I don't know.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was just reading a book, and there's a guy in it. Who's the book? It's I cannot remember. It's the book's called On Being a Man. It's like a New York Times bestseller book right now. Not a Christian book. But in it, he's talking about like all these scales of wealth that he climbs, and he talks about like I was flying first class all the time, and then I just like in my head I was like, how much more can a private plane be? I kind of want that. So he's like climbing that,
Wow.
And he's like, what I found is that with a private plane, it's like owning your own business. Like you have to manage all of it, and it's the worst. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he's like, then I found this other way where you could like own a share of a private plane with other people, and then there's like a company that manages it. He's like, that's the sweet spot because then you don't have to deal with it. And I was like, what are we talking about?
Doing?
Man, it's crazy.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, funny. It's kind of funny that we're chatting about that because in a lot of people's minds, like that's the goal.
For sure.
The goal is to have this perfect life where I can have my own house, I can have my own plane, I can have my own stuff. I have a perfect family that on Christmas morning, all the kids are getting the perfect gift.
Right.
And so as we're diving into this new year, we're entering into this series called Perfect, in which we're kind of unraveling what that looks like. So Phil, before we jump into the series, before we jump into how you kicked it off, talking about perfect families this last week, let's just kind of orbit around this idea of perfection. And why do you think it's so prevailing in our culture now for people to seek after this idealistic, perfect life?
I'm squirreling right now. I just noticed that we got a new light.
We did.
That's fun. Looks great. I think that, it's interesting that we use the term picture perfect. I haven't looked at like the etymology of that or the epistemology of where that came from. Because it predates all the things that we would think about as like picture perfect now.
Yeah.
Now when we think about picture perfect, we think like filters and like what do we present on the internet? Like it actually has kind of taken on. It's probably more accurate to what people feel now than even when it originally came out. And so I always think about that when I get all those like Christmas cards from people, which are amazing. I love that we get those and we have a big old stack of them. So fun, and people we haven't seen in years, all that. It's great. And you can definitely tell the ones that you're like, this took a lot of clicks of the camera to get to, versus the ones where it's like, hey, it's just kind of a silly picture and they could do it easily and send it out. And I think we all feel the pressure, not just for Christmas cards or for the thing that we put on Instagram, but I think we all feel the pressure in spheres of our lives to present a forward-looking vision of how our life is going that helps us feel significant, satisfied, important, impressive. I think sometimes as you get older, relevant. And it's really, I think at some point it stops being about what is personally satisfying or fulfilling. We actually know that sociologically. There are these numbers we get to of what our compensation is or what our job is. And it's like whatever itch you could get scratched by that, you pass it. And then we keep having lifestyle creep and we keep wanting to impress people around us and all that stuff. And then we find ourselves just kind of like suffocating from the weight of the pursuit that can never give us what we're pursuing out of it. And so I think we all feel that. Like, and I don't know, I mean, some of it, if we were to look at it internally versus externally, intrinsically, extrinsically, I think our flesh wants it because it is momentarily satisfying, right? Like when I get a new thing, that's fun. Like it's legitimately cool. When I open the next new iPhone that I get, that will be a fun moment. While simultaneously discarding and I won't be like fighting them to keep my old iPhone. I'll be like, that's my old iPhone. Who cares? But that old iPhone, it wasn't that long ago that it was the new iPhone, right? And I think Christmas is a good reminder of that. And then I think extrinsically, all of these companies, especially in our culture and society, they're built on that image-based consumer mindset. They actually need to wake up in us this constant desire for more and better. There's a marketing strategy called new, improved, and improving that we've all been conditioned to, that actually, if you think about it, the best products and the best companies that you can think of, they have a strategy where they do not do what companies did 100 years ago, where it's like, oh, you bought that refrigerator? That's the only refrigerator you'll need to buy. We're just going to keep making that one. We're not going to improve. Like, that's the one. Everything is new, improved, and improving. And now you could probably add with AI is like the fourth one. Like, those are the things that we say that wake us all up, that wake up our desires.
Yep.
And there's a line, preacher line, that awareness creates desire. And so you take new, improved, and improving. I don't have that, but I want that. And you add the idea of awareness creates desire. Well, I saw that thing online. Man, I got advertised that. We all do this. Like, if I say something right now and you're listening to this out loud near your device in your home, probably you're gonna start getting ads for refrigerators. You're gonna start getting ads for digital photo picture things. You're gonna start, like, that's just what it does. And so I think we are predisposed to this ongoing desire for how can I get more, achieve more, have my kids achieve more, like look better, to be able to find fulfillment. And the really hard, sad part is that sometimes it takes us decades to realize the things that are promising that can't deliver what they promise.
There is something in that pursuit of it. It can be like what you're saying. And it can also be influenced by the people that you're around,
For sure.
the culture that you're in, and like the appearance that you're trying to give as well.
Yeah.
I would argue, like, some people, even myself included, want the shiny new thing so that others people ask me about the shiny new thing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and I think that the uniqueness of the Bay Area too, the feeling of like what is new and shiny that we feel the pressure of in the Bay Area is newer and shinier than anywhere else in the world. And that's like a part of the ethos of this place. And so being like, I got this new thing that really isn't that new. They just didn't know about it. That's like a part of your social cred. Is somebody that's in a startup a year ago gave me a thing that their startup did. But like it was just in pre-release. Nobody else could get it, and I was like, "Oh, this is like a drug. This is crazy, man!" Like, and this is, I think, some of that social capital that goes along with the vision of that for the Bay Area specifically.
Yeah, and there's I mean, cases of this everywhere where you see lines for the exclusive drop that's happening just for today, where the first 25 people will get it, or Nike app or whatever else, like all of that stuff. And yeah, there is something in this chase of, man, I want this thing that will ultimately never satisfy me, but I still want to try to pursue it.
Well, and I think that, we talked about families last week. I think the thing that makes that especially challenging for families is that, the sense in which the pressure you're putting on your family to be perfect is actually making your family worse. And so you're going like, I need to curate this, and we need to have this best experience, and I need my kids to go to this school, and we have all these things that we put on top of it, and I think what ends up happening is two things, and we talked about a couple family systems frameworks, but I think two things happen. One, we put a whole bunch of pressure on our family where everybody's walking on eggshells because they don't want to mess it up, and it precludes people from being honest. And I think God really does show up for us uniquely when we're honest. I think the other thing that it does is it puts people into a spot where, as a family, you have people who are over-functioning and people who are under-functioning. And this, I said this weekend, these things are true of our families, but they're not only true of our families. These are true of coworkers. These are true of classmates. These are true of close friendship dynamics. But you have people that, in order to preserve that facsimile of perfection, they are going over the top. We all have friends like this. Like when you show up to their house, you're just like, and they're trying to look cool. Yeah. But if you'd been there an hour before, they're running around with their hair on fire, trying to get it all perfect. And you have people at work like that, dude. You don't know it, but they're like going nuts. And then you have other people at work that almost as like this passive aggressive response, they are under-functioning. And then they're using this person's dysfunction of over-functioning as really like I'm going to rebel by under-functioning. And then the people that are over-functioning look at that and go, well, if I don't do it, nobody will, so I'll over-function. So when we do that in our families, I think it actually just builds in bitterness and resentment and frustration and a downward spiral where the more this person overfunctions, the more this person or these people underfunction, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's not just within a family altogether. This week we'll talk about how that shows up in marriage. And then we're going to talk about how it shows up in parenting with our kids. And so I think just recognizing so much of this comes down to honest reflection. And if you're somebody that's over functioning because you're trying to aim at this perfect image of family, it's going to start by you admitting that your family's not perfect, that that's actually an unattainable goal, and that you're exhausted and frustrated in trying to pursue it. Like, there is a grieving that's going to happen in that. And then if you're somebody that's under functioning, you're going to have to admit why you're under functioning and be honest that actually you under functioning is pretty convenient and comfortable. I mean, you have to deal with blow-ups probably from somebody else in your life who's getting frustrated and getting irritated, but you're on the couch anyway, so it's not a big deal. Yeah. And so I think these honest conversations, everybody in sort of the family system mobile that we talked about that's spinning over the crib of our lives, everybody in that system has something to own and talk about in the midst of the dysfunction.
Mobile.
I mean, I just committed to mobile. I heard that Mark Kim up at San Mateo was like, I'm calling it mobile, like afterwards, like, just from VisionCast. So, you pick your poison. So tomato, really.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of a video that I saw of, which is like a short reel or something. And it was a sketch where younger family opens the door, guests immediately come in and like swipe their finger on the baseboards and like, see, I told you it would be dirty to each other, like open the closet and there's some clothes piled up. It's just like all the things that you imagine as you're going to host people,
right?
Which will never happen.
Right.
They're just it was
total. That's so good. Well, I also think that, especially if your family dynamic, we had a couple that we did their wedding. Listen, I did premarital counseling for them last year, and they were in church this week, and I'm talking about some of this stuff, and family system stuff comes up in premarital counseling, and so they're coming down the aisle after one of the services, and I just said, "You feel like we were just continuing counseling?" They just finished family time with their families and all that, and she just goes, "Man, stay out of my business," because she's like, "This is exactly what we're dealing with," and I do think that, especially early on in marriage or early on in new relationships. Or even maybe for you, if you're like new at a school or new at a job or you have a new roommate, one of the things that those moments reveal in this false pursuit of perfect is that you have sort of an internal temperature of dysfunction and chaos. We all do. And so that is like in some ways is good. Like it probably elevates your level of floor of what you can handle. Mine does. Like I grew up with a much higher level of dysfunction and chaos than maybe many other people. It's not a competition, by the way. When you come up to me and tell me about your family, you don't need to say mine's not as bad. It's okay. Yours is yours. Mine is mine. It's fine. But what it allows me to do is when I walk into situations that are really stressful and challenging, I'm able to like show up with a pretty even head. Like it's not a big deal. But the dysfunction that can get created is when your internal temperature, what you're used to, is different than someone else, and you don't verbalize that or name that, you will use the relationship like a thermostat, like one of those Nest thermostats, and you will change the conditions of the relationship to get to the temperature of your comfort zone of chaos and dysfunction. Your level of comfortable anxiety. So, the easiest way to see this, I had a team member actually who was self-aware enough in a past context who said to me, "Hey, I know we have all these things to fix." He said, "When I get done fixing them, I know myself enough to know that when things get too calm, I will generate a crisis because I feel better in the midst of one." And I was like, first of all, great self-awareness. Yeah. Second, let's get you into some counseling, right? Yep. But I think that all of us, especially in new contexts, that's one of those family systems things that when we're pursuing perfect, part of our version of perfect is what is that temperature that we want to be at that I'm going to change the circumstance. I'll even self-sabotage in order to get to that. Or maybe for you, your temperature's lower, and so you're going to live in false harmony for months and months and months and months because you just need to over-function to get it there until you get so frustrated you blow up. Or you walk away, like we talked about last week.
And I loved how our scripture that we centered around was the story of David, where a lot of the times it cuts off right at the peak, like what you talked about. And then there's just like so much chaos, dysfunction, things that you don't typically want to think about or hear on the first message back.
Sure. Yeah. Welcome back. Happy New Year.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about all this stuff.
Yep.
Yet there's still hope in that.
For sure.
And there's still redemption in that. And I loved how we drew from a story in which there were great times and then there were terrible times, yet through it all, God wants us to seek him in order to be redeemed.
Totally.
And it does not matter about output. It just matters about that pursuit.
Yeah.
And so for people that are like, man, yes, Phil, I resonate with my family not being perfect. What do I do with that now? Maybe I've admitted it.
Yeah.
I need help. I need to help reorient my perspective. What are some ways do you think that we could help coach our community this week in making some positive steps towards reframing how we see ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of it comes down to where can you have honest conversations about this. We talked about this a little bit last weekend. Maybe that's going to be just you and God for now. That's okay. That's a fine place to start. If you're not somebody that has done that for a while, journaling can help you. It just, sort of forms your thoughts. We actually did that with our high school students across Menlo on Sunday night. We talked about journaling, and you gave them some journals at campuses. So I think that stuff can be helpful if you've never done that. I also think if you have trusted people in your life, especially trusted people in your life who have messy but beautiful families, people that you have seen, not the family that seems like they have it all together and you never see conflict, but like they love each other and they can be a little messy. They can host you in their home, and when you walk in, you're stepping over coats to get, I think there's something really beautiful about those families because you're not going to scare them. Yeah. So if you're a guy, like, go talk to that guy. If you're a lady, go talk to that lady and say, hey, can I talk to you about some of the things that I'm thinking and feeling, especially if they're maybe like one step ahead of you on the parenting journey. You have little kids, they have teenagers. You have teenagers, their kids just moved out. I think that stuff can be really helpful. And obviously, we have a counseling resource that you can probably find at menlo.church/connect to be able to go into professional counseling. That may be a great step. You obviously have folks at your campus, like campus pastors and associate campus pastors, that would love to talk with you. But I think that some of this is just about starting to release the pressure valve. There's two dynamics at play that I think make this unique. One is if you've not ever done an oil change yourself, there's like this experience where I feel like I have EVs now, so I'm like, let me make sure I'm telling the truth. There's a plug, or there's a thing you do inside the hood to release the pressure. And no oil goes out up there; it just releases the pressure. And then actually underneath the car, you pull out a plug, and then when you do that, all of this oil flows out. Like you're literally emptying it. There's kind of no halfway. You're not going to put out like a little bit. So I would just say be prepared for that dynamic. If you've been storing up a bunch of frustration or a bunch of uncommunicated expectations or disappointment, this is probably not a 20-minute conversation. It might start with that, and if it's going to be that, I would just think like, what's the one thing you want to talk about? But for most of us, we hold a lot of this, like our emotional oil change, that we need a big pan for the amount that's going to come out, and that's okay. That, like, if we haven't done it in a long time, if you've never done it, that's okay. That's what that time and purpose is for. I think the other thing that can be helpful to recognize in these moments is that a lot of times we pick a problem person in our family. And so we don't have a problem in our family. He's the problem. She's the problem. Sometimes it's in your marriage. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks or in a few days. Sometimes it's like a child, a specific child. We'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. But actually in therapy, that is typically identified as what's called the identified patient. That person is exhibiting symptoms. The idea is kind of like that person's like usually a canary in the coal mine. And so I just challenge you to go, don't scapegoat that person. There's like a pie of problems in your family, everybody gets a slice. Everybody's contributing to it. And so recognizing the presenting problems in the family mobile might mean that child or that spouse is really acting out, and that's their way of over functioning to be able to kind of like deal with the anxiety that they're feeling and seeing. But that is not the only thing in your family that's a problem. Yeah. So I think be ready for the oil pan of your emotions, even if you're not crying, just like verbally processing that out, which is really important and helpful. And where if you are telling yourself the story, if she would just get her act together or he would just get his act together, then we would be okay. I'm telling you, that's not true. And so just letting yourself understand, it doesn't mean it's all your fault either. It's not. You're in a family system, and there's shared responsibility because of it.
Yes, and part of the family system is inherited. I mean, I inherited my version of family from what I grew up in. Missy inherited her version of family from what she grew up in. So let's talk a little bit, Phil, about this concept of like this generational echo that, you know, Missy and I both recognize there are parts of our families that we love and parts of our families that we want to try to improve so that Micah has a better life and can parent better, can be a better brother, maybe, eventually.
Let's go. Let's go. We're making an announcement right now?
Nah, not quite yet, but it'll come.
Yes.
Part of that is like, yeah, I want 2 kids because that's what I grew up with. Missy wants 4 kids because that's what she grew up with. And so when we try to do this really hard work now, talk about the impact that can make for future people.
Yeah, well, I think that part of what I would say is if you're trying to follow Jesus, even in a way that feels like you're struggling or it's not going as well as you want, you're already doing better than you think you're doing. You're already doing better than you think you're doing. Like, I promise. You are already doing better than you think you're doing. And not only because you are doing better than you think you're doing, but you have aligned your family to the favor and grace of God, probably in a way you didn't experience, even with like well-intentioned parents, right? Yeah. I think one of the dynamics that we're experiencing right now in America, especially in the Bay Area, is that the statement, I want my kids to be better off than I am. What that has meant, basically since the founding of our nation, is materialistically, I want my kids to be better off than I was, right? And basically every generation before this one, it's happened. Generation after generation after generation. The next generation has more money, more education, more opportunity, better living conditions over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. What happened, I would argue, starting probably like in the 60s and 70s with a loosening of the social fabric of America. And I'm not advocating that the 50s were the golden age of America. There were lots of problems. Go ask women and people of color in those times. I'm not this is not a Pollyannish view of that. I'm saying that the social fabric of some of the agreed upon mores in our culture, what we watched happen in the 60s and 70s is it became exclusively about materialistic, I want my kid's life to be better off than mine. And that continued and continued and continued, and we were really living off the fumes of it. Well, now we have a problem because the mores are gone. The social fabric of like, what does it mean to be a good person means who absolutely knows. I mean, it's a completely relative answer in our culture. And the materialistic spin rate of are you better materialistically than the previous generation? We are the first generation where the answer to that question is no. And our kids, the answer will probably be no. Housing affordability is crazy. Inflation is crazy. So if the only North Star we have is, I want my kids to be better off than I am. Now, if you're listening to this and you live in the Bay Area and you got a trust and your kids have a trust and you're in a unique situation, like there are people that are like that, but I would say be careful because when we remove the engine from our kids for their own self-sufficiency, many, not all, many of the generations that are handed those things, they actually struggle desperately because discovering their purpose outside of the need for finding a way for their purpose to drive self-sufficiency is very demotivating. Like, I think we're actually designed to work. Like, it's a core function. So I've seen some families do that well. If you're ever interested in sort of the best practices of that, feel free to ask me. Like, I'm happy to have that conversation if you're trying to figure that out for our kids. How do we structure a trust? How do we think about inheritance? Not because I have all this money, but because I've just been around godly men and women who have navigated this really well. But I think that now, I would say if you're a follower of Jesus, I want my kids to be better off than I am. I think now the better way to think about that is from like a values, frameworks, personal differentiation. Like, am I a person of character pursuing Jesus? And are my kids going to be? That's actually the better capital, because it depends on your kid's calling. Like they may not live in the same zip code as you. They may not have the same net worth as you do. But can you see there's actually something of increasing value? So if you're pursuing Jesus and you're trying to just show up well for your kids, man, you're probably doing better than you think you are. God's showing up. I'd say when you mess up, own it. Be honest about that. Tell them when, I would say one of us probably every week or two sits down with one of our 4 kids and says, hey, I'm so sorry Dad showed up like that in that conversation. Really, the way I was talking to you was not about you. It was about something else and somebody else that I didn't handle well over there, and I brought that to you. I'm sorry, and then this is really important. You don't have to say it right now. You don't actually even have to do it, but I'm asking you, would you please forgive me? I just think the more we can pattern that generationally, Alyssa and I, very different home lives. Yeah. Neither one of us ever had our parents apologize or ask for forgiveness one time. Wow. And so I just think, what are the ways we pattern the gospel? Yeah. Like, how do we do that as parents? So how do we do that in our families? I think God is very honored when even with the desire and attempt to lean in, and we can address some of those echoes that show up. One of the concepts that I didn't work in this weekend, but I think is helpful, is kind of this like handwriting idea of our sort of genetic storytelling. That if sometimes you ever noticed, maybe most of the time our handwriting looks like one of our parents. It's like a weird thing that exists more often than not. So like my handwriting kind of looks like my dad's handwriting. And I don't know why, I didn't look at my dad's handwriting. I didn't learn from him, but we just both have terrible handwriting. And then actually later on in life, the way that he compensated for his handwriting is he started writing in all caps, even lowercase, because it was more legible. Yeah. I didn't know that. And when I was in high school, I started doing it instinctively. Whoa, it was weird, right?
That is
weird. So I think that exists for us, not just with handwriting, but like the stories of our childhood. We will end up kind of inadvertently writing them into our adulthood if we're not intentional. Yeah. And so that idea of like, I want 2 kids because that was my experience, but like, what are those other patterns? What are those other habits? What are those other milestones that if you don't name it, if you're not intentional about it, the good and the bad just become unaddressed and unintentionally replicated in your family. And now it's messy because you're married to somebody who's doing the same thing. And so even just naming it, we did a thing with our kids for the first time this year. It was maybe 2 hours. I mean, we have a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old, so this is a wild deal. But we just got in a room and said, hey, what were your favorite parts of last year? What were they? We did this thing, we did that, it's cool. Some of it was big event stuff. Some of it was like little practices or moments that we shared as a family. Yeah. And then it was like, what do you want us to do together as a family in 2026? Oh, here's the stuff that we'd like to do and whatever. Yeah. And then, hey, what do you hope to do in 2026? Like, what do you want? And so for me, like one of mine is I want to run a half marathon. And so like that's one of my things. And I want to read a certain number of physical books. Nice. I've just realized that for me, it's very easy for me to multitask. Yep. And I do a lot of audiobooks. Yep. And I've been very convinced of the need to acquire slow dopamine, and reading physical books and single tasking is very good for me around slow dopamine. I have dyslexia, so I read them very slow. It's not even really about the book. It's about what it's doing for my brain. And so I think that was another one of mine. All of us kind of went around and did that. And our 6-year-old, his was like, I want to make new friends this year. Like that was his goal. And so I made a spreadsheet of like, hey, here's our family. Here's the things that everybody wants to do this year. Yeah. Here's the stuff and it's not high pressure. It's not like, oh gosh, like what's your Q1 break? No. It's just
your
like
lag and lead metric for your friend making.
Let's put it in Asana. But I think whatever at your age and stage you can do, I think to just like name the story you're walking into a season with. And I think the new year is a great time to do that. If you're an empty nester, do that with your spouse. If you're single, do that for you. If you have a roommate, maybe do it with your roommate. But I think just not feeling the pressure of New Year's resolution-y stuff, but just saying, what's the story I want to see God write in the year ahead? And how can I do that? And if you're in a family, like how can your family do that and feel like you're one team trying to do it together?
That's so great. Yeah. Well, Phil, thanks for kicking off this year, man.
Absolutely.
I'm excited. I'm hopeful. And we got a lot happening this month. We've got Discover Menlo coming up. We've got a community conversations on marriage that's coming up on the 16th.
That's right.
Some hangouts happening for different ages and stages. And also we got Alpha starting at the end of the month. So lots
much
happening,
bro.
dude.
So much
So
happening. Yeah. And if you're at Menlo Park and you are a guy, they're starting like a guys at Menlo Park, kind of like what
Mountain View has?
Mountain View has with Man Cave. They're starting that this
Oh,
Friday,
sweet.
and I'll speak at it. So it's
Cool.
like 6:45 to 8, I think. So yeah, I mean, for us, if you're ever like, man, it feels like August and January, like things really fire back up. We know the rhythms of life, and so we try to figure out what are the points that we can kind of say yes to, and what are the right times and ways to be able to do that. And so, hopefully that it becomes a resource and a next step for you to take some steps in addition to whatever the Lord's doing for you personally.
Yep. Well, that's great. If you need any prayer or encouragement this week, you text our team, 650-600-0402. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you soon.
See ya.